Have you ever paused before a meal, wondering if the food that brings you comfort today could become a source of trouble tomorrow? Imagine savoring a delicious dinner, feeling perfectly content, only to have your world suddenly and irrevocably change. Here in the United States, someone suffers a stroke every 40 seconds. For those of us over 60, the risks climb even higher, and they are intimately tied to what we eat. You might think, I've eaten meat my whole life. Why worry now? But the truth is, not all meats are created equal. Some are silent culprits, hiding behind rich flavors while quietly raising your blood pressure, clogging your arteries, and dramatically increasing your chances of a stroke. Today, we will uncover which meats could be putting your health at risk day after day without you ever realizing it. This isn't about giving up the foods you love. It's about making wiser choices. By the end of our time together, you'll know precisely what to look out for and what small changes can help protect your heart and your brain. We invite you to stay with us and to subscribe to Health 365 for more life-saving insights like these. Let's begin with a classic, a staple of backyard barbecues that may be doing more harm than good: beef ribs. We all know that tempting, smoky aroma, the tender meat practically falling from the bone, perhaps slathered in a favorite sauce. But the very quality that makes beef ribs so decadent is also what makes them so risky for our hearts. They are packed with saturated fat. Not just a little, but one of the highest concentrations you can find in any cut of meat. When you consume saturated fat regularly, your body responds by producing more LDL cholesterol. This is the harmful kind, the kind that builds up in your arteries like grease in a drain pipe. Over time, this buildup hardens and narrows the arterial pathways, a condition called atherosclerosis. And when blood cannot flow freely to the brain, your risk of a stroke skyrockets. A study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition confirmed a direct link between diets high in saturated fat and the development of arterial plaque. For anyone over 60, this is a serious red flag. Our blood vessels naturally become more delicate with age. Adding heavy, fatty meats is like pouring fuel on a fire. And it's not just the fat. Beef ribs are often seasoned with salt-heavy rubs and sauces, causing your sodium intake to soar. This can elevate your blood pressure, often without any symptoms, and high blood pressure remains a leading cause of stroke. So, what can you do? You don't have to abandon the flavors you enjoy. Simply try switching to leaner cuts of beef, trim any visible fat before cooking, or even explore plant-based barbecue options. Your heart and your family will thank you for it. Now, let's turn to another rich and flavorful meat that carries a surprising risk: pork belly. Whether it's sizzling in a pan or crisping in the oven, its indulgent flavor is deeply comforting. But that comfort comes with a heavy burden of saturated fat, making it one of the most concerning meats for both heart and brain health. When we eat pork belly, we are consuming a significant amount of unhealthy fat that directly increases the LDL cholesterol and triglycerides in our blood. Over time, this contributes to plaque formation inside the arteries, constricting blood flow. When this occurs in the vessels leading to your brain, the risk of a stroke rises dramatically. A study published in the Journal of the American Heart Association linked high triglyceride levels directly to an increased stroke risk in older adults. This means that enjoying pork belly even once or twice a week can contribute to long-term damage, especially if you already have other risk factors. And let's not forget that it's often prepared with generous amounts of salt or sweet glazes, which add even more pressure. Salt raises blood pressure, while sugar promotes inflammation, a difficult combination for any cardiovascular system to handle. But the good news is that you can still enjoy delicious meals without the risk. Try leaner pork loin. Always trim visible fat, and season with herbs, lemon, and garlic instead of heavy sauces. Small changes can protect your heart without sacrificing the joy of eating. Next, we move to a familiar favorite: ground beef. It's the heart of meatloaf, burgers, and spaghetti sauce, foods that feel like home. But depending on the kind you choose, ground beef can secretly introduce far more fat into your diet than you realize, setting the stage for serious trouble down the line. Most store-bought ground beef is a blend of meat and fat. Labels like 80-20 or 70-30 indicate this ratio. The lower the first number, the higher the fat content. This means a typical burger can be loaded with saturated fat, which raises LDL cholesterol and can even thicken your blood. Over time, this combination of thickened blood and narrowed arteries can lead to a stroke, often without any warning. A clinical trial published in the journal Circulation found that participants who regularly ate high-fat ground beef showed significantly higher LDL cholesterol levels in just a few weeks. Imagine the cumulative effect over decades. Then there's portion size. A small patty often becomes a large one, especially at family cookouts. This means more fat, more salt, and more pressure on your cardiovascular system. Add cheese, a processed bun, and condiments, and that simple meal transforms into a perfect storm of stroke risks. The solution is simple. Choose ground beef labeled 90-10 or 93-7. Better yet, mix it with ground turkey or lentils to reduce the fat without losing the texture. Grill instead of frying, and fill your plate with greens to create a healthier balance. Let's now consider a cut often seen as elegant, but which may be hiding more danger than most realize: lamb chops. Reserved for special occasions, they are rich, tender, and carry an air of sophistication. But don't let the elegance deceive you. Lamb chops contain a surprising amount of saturated fat, a red flag for older adults seeking to protect their heart and brain. You might assume lamb is a healthier choice than beef or pork, but the truth is that most cuts, especially chops, are heavily marbled with fat. That fat doesn't just melt into flavor, it also enters your bloodstream, raising LDL cholesterol and promoting inflammation. And inflammation within your blood vessels is a key factor in the development of strokes. A study in the British Medical Journal that followed older adults found that those who regularly ate high-fat red meats, including lamb, had a significantly higher rate of cardiovascular events. The researchers identified both saturated fat and heme iron, both present in lamb, as contributing factors. And consider how we prepare them, often pan-fried with butter or served with rich marinades and creamy sides. This combination turns a single piece of meat into a meal that is hard on your arteries. If you enjoy lamb, you don't have to give it up entirely. Just be mindful. Trim the fat before cooking, bake or grill instead of frying, and pair it with fiber-rich vegetables while skipping the heavy, salty sides. It's about balance, not sacrifice. Next, a steak that many consider the king of flavor, but it may be wearing a dangerous crown. Marbled steaks, like ribeye or T-bone. They are the crown jewels of the steakhouse menu. Juicy, flavorful, and full of character. But the very marbling that makes them taste so divine is precisely what makes them a risk to your heart and brain. These steaks are defined by streaks of fat woven directly into the muscle. This intramuscular fat is high in saturated fat, which your liver converts into the LDL cholesterol that clings to artery walls. Over time, this buildup narrows the arteries, restricting blood flow and raising the risk of stroke. A study in The Lancet revealed that diets high in marbled red meats were strongly associated with a greater chance of ischemic stroke in people over 60. The risk is compounded by the inflammation and oxidative stress these meats can trigger inside your blood vessels. And rarely is the steak eaten alone. It often arrives with butter, creamy sides, or salty sauces, layering on even more sodium and fat. It becomes a heavy tax on your entire circulatory system, even if enjoyed only occasionally. But you don't have to give up steak forever. Opt for leaner cuts like sirloin or filet mignon, and grill them simply without butter. Use fresh herbs, a squeeze of lemon, or a touch of olive oil. You can still savor the flavor with far less risk. Let's now look at a meat that comes sliced, cured, and full of punchy flavor, but hides a different kind of danger: salami. This thinly sliced favorite appears in sandwiches, on charcuterie boards, and as a simple snack. It's salty, savory, and so easy to enjoy without a second thought. But salami is not just meat. It's a highly processed product, loaded with hidden risks. First, there is the sodium. Just a few slices of salami can contain more salt than your body needs in an entire meal. This sodium causes your body to retain fluid and constricts your blood vessels, leading to higher blood pressure. Over time, this constant pressure damages the arteries, making them stiff and prone to blockage. But that's not all. Salami is packed with saturated fat, and also contains preservatives like nitrates and nitrites. These chemicals preserve the meat and give it its signature color and taste, but they have also been linked to damage in the lining of blood vessels. A study published in Stroke Journal found that people who regularly consumed processed meats containing nitrates had a significantly higher risk of stroke. The problem is that salami feels harmless. It's eaten in small amounts, tucked into a sandwich, or paired with cheese. But those small servings add up quickly, especially if enjoyed several times a week. Instead, look for low-sodium, nitrate-free deli meats, or swap in lean turkey, hummus, or roasted vegetables for texture and flavor. If you do enjoy salami, think of it as a rare treat, not a daily staple. Up next is something that comes from a can, a pantry staple that may be putting more pressure on your heart than you would ever guess: canned corned beef. It's a convenient comfort food, easy to store and quick to prepare. But beneath its familiar taste lies a serious concern, especially for older hearts and brains. Canned corned beef is incredibly high in sodium. A single serving can deliver more than half of the recommended daily amount. This is because it's cured in a salt-heavy brine for preservation. That salt drives up blood pressure, which, over time, wears down the inner walls of your arteries, making them more likely to clog or rupture. Beyond the salt, it's also quite fatty, often containing processed fat and fillers that add saturated fat to every bite. This combination of fat and salt is what makes it so satisfying, but also so dangerous. Research from the American Heart Journal has shown that regular consumption of canned or preserved meats is linked to a higher rate of stroke and cardiovascular issues even in small portions. And because it's so dense and rich, it's easy to eat more than you realize, often served with other salty sides that make the meal even heavier on your system. As an alternative, you can make your own corned beef at home using a lean brisket and low-sodium seasonings. Or, for a similar texture, try roasted turkey or shredded chicken. Now let's move on to a meat often seen as a protein-packed snack, but which may be packing more than you bargained for: beef jerky. It's the go-to snack for road trips and hiking trails, often marketed as a healthy source of protein. But don't let the convenience fool you. Beef jerky can quietly work against your heart and blood vessels. Jerky is preserved by salting and drying, which means even a small serving can contain an enormous amount of salt. That salt pulls water into your bloodstream, raising your blood pressure and putting extra strain on the arteries that feed your brain. Over time, this pressure increases the risk of stroke, especially in older adults whose blood vessels are already more fragile. Many commercial jerkies are also loaded with sugar and preservatives, like nitrates and nitrites. These additives may improve flavor and shelf life, but they have been linked to inflammation in blood vessels. A study in the journal Neurology found that people who frequently ate processed, preserved meats like jerky had a higher incidence of vascular inflammation, a key trigger for both strokes and heart attacks. And while it's eaten in small pieces, those small bites add up quickly. A few strips here and there, day after day, can become a source of chronic stress on your cardiovascular system. If you enjoy jerky, consider making your own at home with herbs and natural seasonings, keeping the protein while ditching the danger. Finally, let's look at one more meat that hides in plain sight: deli meats. Those thin, neatly stacked cuts of turkey, roast beef, and ham seem convenient, even healthy. But for anyone over 60, they can be more harmful than they appear. Most deli meats are processed with high levels of sodium and often contain nitrites or nitrates to keep them looking fresh. Unfortunately, these additives come at a cost. Studies, including one in the American Journal of Public Health, have linked regular consumption of processed cold cuts with an increased risk of hypertension and stroke. Just a few slices can contain hundreds of milligrams of sodium. And when you build a sandwich, you often add salty cheese, pickles, and condiments, turning a simple meal into a sodium overload. This raises blood pressure and makes it easier for plaque to build up in the vessels leading to the brain. Even lean-looking options like turkey breast are often just as salty as their fattier counterparts. If you love sandwiches, try roasting your own meat at home and slicing it fresh. Use herbs for flavor instead of salt, and consider heart-friendly additions like avocado or grilled vegetables. And so we see that some of the meats we have loved for years may be quietly increasing our risk of a stroke. But here is the good news: it is never too late to make a change. This is not about giving up flavor or joy. It is about making gentler, smarter choices. Trim the fat. Skip the excess salt. Cook with care. Your heart and brain deserve the same love you give to others, and the small steps you take today can mean more tomorrows with the people you cherish most. If this guide was helpful, we invite you to subscribe to Health 365. You are not alone on this journey. We are walking it with you, one meal at a time.